Welcome to this edition of The Soul of Warren County. I'm Mickey Gwyn. As a retired Air Force veteran, I know firsthand the very unique opportunities a military career can bring. From traveling to faraway places to the unique, heartfelt pride of knowing that you've served your country. But even in the military, seldom do you get the opportunity to sing for presidents. Well, my guest today has had that opportunity, along with other opportunities in music and entertainment throughout her military career and her life. Please welcome to the studio, Chief Master Sergeant Retired, Regina Pullin. Regina, welcome to the Soul of Warren County.
Thank you, and thank you for that intro. That was awesome. I was like, who is that?
For people that may not recognize the last name, your maiden name was?
My maiden name was Coonrod, which people still call me that back at home. So.
And that family tree sort of spreads its branches, looks like, with the Coonrods here in McMillan, maybe even
That's
the Leftwiches here in McMillan,
That's
of course,
right.
in Sparta. So you're part of Warren County.
That's right. That's right. I'll claim them.
You'll claim us? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
If you claim me. Of course.
No, well, yeah, we've claimed you. That's why you're here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I know you have a very lengthy background in singing. Mm-hmm. Were you one of those small children that went around the house singing all the time, or did that come a little bit later?
Oh boy, as long as I can remember, I've been singing. My mom said that I started singing when I was 2, and
Okay.
My late grandfather, James Leftwich, taught me how to sing "Precious Lord." That was my first song that I ever learned. Apparently, I don't remember any of this. And she remembers me sitting on his knee and singing away. And but of course he passed away when I was 3 years old. But during that time, he also gave me a harmonica. And just a side note,
Right.
He taught me how to play a little harmonica, and I still have my harmonicas to this day. So I've been singing since I was 2. I've been singing. I grew up in the church, so. My mother was Pentecostal. My father's side was Church of Christ. So I've got the best of both worlds, the harmonies and the soul all together. We put them into one, and you've got my style.
Well, that's got to be a very unique combination.
It is.
My family
indeed.
is Church of Christ. We're very sort of laid back, as you know, we don't have music.
Right, but those harmonies are beautiful.
But boy, acapella singing, you can't beat the Church of Christ.
And that's what I learned from my father, and I mean, in that church, some of the most beautiful harmonies I've ever heard came from there.
You transitioned, went and enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, and everybody knows I have a bias for the Air Force. How did that come about?
Well, going on, actually, let me start here. When I was 16, between my junior and my senior year, the Air Force Band of Colorado of the Rockies came out to White County High School. And that was my first exposure to the band. But I went on and went to college. I was a junior ROTC battalion commander. We had just started that program my freshman year, so I grew up through that. So I had the military mindset before I even joined the Air Force. Okay. But that was Army, and so my teacher, Colonel Pate, God rest his soul, I went to him and I said, I'm running out of college money, and I don't want to be that starving artist in Nashville.
Right.
What should I do, and which branch should I go to? And he said, if I were you, if you were my daughter, which I consider you like a daughter to me, he said, I would join the Air Force. And I said, salute smartly, and went ahead and signed up and said, how fast can you get me out of here? Because I didn't have money for the next semester. So I went out and off we go into the wild blue yonder. And it was my first plane ride down to San Antonio.
Okay.
So it's a nightmare.
Now, your first career field in the Air Force was?
Security Forces.
Security Forces.
And
okay.
That's for us civilians out there, law enforcement and security. By that time, they had combined security and law enforcement. And fortunately, they started interviewing applicants while we were in tech school for security of Air Force One at Andrews Air Force Base. Okay. And I was one of that top 10% that was recruited to go there. So instead of going to Seymour Johnson, North Carolina, which is where my orders were originally from.
Right.
I ended up going to Andrews Air Force Base.
Oh, okay, okay. So you went there as security for Air Force One?
Yes, I did. I did.
How long did
I had to do much more than that, though.
Right.
I did that for about 3 years. I also, during that time, auditioned for, what do they call it? The Air Force's Premier Entertainment Showcase is what they called it.
Tops in Blue.
Tops in Blue. So you know.
Oh, yeah.
So I did that in 2001. And we had the time of our lives. It was also the hardest thing I've ever done. And if you've seen them, you know what kind of work they do. And
yes, ironically, I was at Lackland Air Force Base. So
Okay.
back when I was in the Air Force, I keep saying it wasn't that long ago, but they trained at Lackland.
Yes.
I don't know if they still do that.
We still did. They stopped the program in 2015.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
now, but I still went back every year for the competition, those 10 days, and we mentored some of the new contestants and everything else, and got them on their next tour. I did that for every year after that, after my tour.
Okay, because they would be there at Lackland during the rehearsals, and I think the first show was always at Lackland when the
Yes,
after
it was.
rehearsals and the first actual show was.
Oh,
at
the
Lackland.
nightmare show, the one that where wardrobe is falling off and all that stuff.
I'm sure that's got to be a very tenseful.
It's our
Yeah,
first time.
Yeah, it's the first time. But,
Yeah.
I mean, shows were great. I mean, just the talent level and sort of a little sidebar story. You know how it is. Everybody thinks they can sing. So
Oh, yeah.
me and a couple of my friends back years ago when we were young airmen in the Air
Oh, I
Force,
wanna hear
we
this.
decided we were going to go into the base competition for Tops in Blue.
Yeah.
When you started at your base, and
I
then
remember
you
your
went up from there.
MatchCom and all
right,
that.
Right up from there. So we were going to go in as a group. So we went in and we sang, it's probably before your time, but Dancing Machine by the Jackson 5.
Dance, dance,
Yes, we did
yeah.
Dancing Machine. And it had a few little steps to go with it kind of thing. And we did very well, but learned sort of a valuable lesson. It's hard to be selected for Tops in Blue as a group. You almost have to be a soloist to be
Yes,
able to.
you have to stand out among the crowd.
Yeah, and I think, as I remember, it seemed like we came runner-up in the group division,
That
you know,
category.
soloists and groups and things of that nature. And it was a nice experience, but I mean, we probably wasn't ready for prime time anyway. we just wanted to do something. I just thought about that story when you mentioned that.
That's great.
But
That's
with the
great. And
competition-
they did away with all those group competitions
Oh, really?
anyway. It ended up being just solo acts.
It
so,
makes sense. Yeah, it's hard to really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless your group has a lead singer and they do
Right.
pretty much all the singing, you're sort of back there doing the doo-wop kind of thing behind them. It's hard to do that, but just for people to understand the competition. I mean, we have American Idol and America's Got Talent and those shows today. I think back, and I was in the military in the mid 70s on, and just to think about the talent that we had just in the Air Force
Yes.
back during that
Yes.
time. And as you probably can attest to, it wasn't that, oh, I'm the diva and I show up and I do my part and I leave.
Oh,
the
no.
Cast, you do everything. You set up the stage, you got the
Yes.
sound system together. You did all those
We
things.
had 45,000 pounds of equipment that traveled everywhere with us, whether it was stateside and we were in our trucks and our convoy that we had going all over the country, or whether we packed up a C-130 and headed that way, and they would put the equipment on one and us on the other. So it was, just like I said, the hardest thing I ever did, not from a standpoint of performing,
Right.
because that was the easy part,
Right.
but that was just 90 minutes, but the rest of your day was on the move, and we never got leave or never got to go home for an entire year.
Yeah. And y'all literally traveled the world.
The world, lots of countries. Unfortunately, my time was when September 11th happened.
Oh, okay.
So we hadn't long been on the road, and we hadn't even went overseas yet. Actually, we were at our first overseas stop, and September 11th happened. We were in Rota, Spain, and they shuffled us off, and we already had a show. Now we practiced for a show for about 3 months, and they put us on the road, and we were fairly new into our tour, and they sent us directly to Germany, and that's where we stayed, and we had to revamp our entire show to be a dedication to America and all of those that we lost. So we were in it was a different time. You know, we didn't have one show. We had this patriotic show. We ended up going to the Daytona 500 and doing a big showcase there. right before the race started. So it changed our schedule. Bases canceled, but there was a lot of community outreach, a lot of raising the morale of our community, whether it was overseas, our military bases, or in our communities around America. So it was different compared, and then they extended our tour like another 2 or 3 months. So it was long. We lost some folks along the way.
I can imagine.
We ended with like 6 girls on the team, and but it was probably one of the most rewarding experiences for me, because I took that work ethic and everything else with me, and I use it to this day. I'm familiar with the way audio is set up. A lot of soloists will just walk in and sing, and
right.
I'm familiar with what a soundboard looks like, or lights or anything like that. And I'm just very grateful for that experience. I probably wouldn't have had my Air Force Band job either had I not toured with Tops in Blue, because that's where they saw me perform.
And so Tops in Blue at that point almost went from performing to y'all were ambassadors, I guess.
We were ambassadors. We call them ambassadors in blue.
But even more so, I guess.
Ambassadors in blue. That's exactly what we were. I just remember the lines being so long, and it wasn't just our military bases. They would, if we had it at a civic center, let's say in Montana or something, it's not just the military people, it's people from all over the community, and it was a way to unite the bases with that local community, and they would always be so grateful for that.
And I would imagine during those very troubling times, to be able to try to uplift the spirits of our citizens probably made you even more proud to be part of that group. Oh my
gosh, the tears that would be shed. Everybody was waving a flag at that point in time, and it was probably the most patriotic I've ever seen in my country, as far as my generation is concerned. And the vets that would stand up on the front row, as we always end it with "God bless the USA."
Right.
And that was just the pride that they showed, and people would just go nuts at that finale, and there was no greater feeling than that. And we would probably cry every night someone was touched in some kind of way. So it never got old. It never got old. Every night was opening night for us.
I just could imagine the memories that you will never, ever forget.
I'm getting chills right now. And I just hate it because due to budgeting and optics, of course, they stopped doing it and they no longer tour. Air Force Entertainment does some things with celebrities and go to different bases and stuff, but definitely not the members who leave their jobs for a year, and they don't do it that way. It just looks different now.
Yeah, interesting. I've kept up with some of the transitions in the Air Force over the years, but I guess I just didn't realize that Tops in Blue had been disbanded. That was something that we really look forward to every year. Yeah. So you say being in Tops in Blue, you were discovered. How did that happen?
Oh boy, I was at Pullin Air Force Base, the home of the Air Force Band, right? So I remember I was in their little community center, which is located right next to the Air Force Band hangar.
Right.
And someone, I can't even remember who it was, saw me there, and they invited me to audition. Now, I was also at McCord Air Force Base, and there was another band, Air Force Band, I guess a regional band, and I didn't know the difference at the time, who had auditioned me there, and so he had already committed me to move there, so I didn't know that I had orders to go to Georgia, but apparently I did, and he was pretty upset.
I can imagine.
And then I was told that they're having auditions in January. Well, my tour wasn't over. They had extended our tour. So I said, well, I'll just pray that you guys don't hire anybody. And then, but they had 2 slots open, which is very rare because people stay there forever. 2 vocalist slots. One young lady was moving to another, she was going to stop singing, and she was going to do more of a 9-to-5 type of job. And the other young lady was getting out after her 4-year enlistment, which is very rare, but she's phenomenal. She's a jazz singer, and she's absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, one young lady was already hired, and in February I got the call. I was like, hey, do you guys hire anybody? And they said, no, come on and audition. So I was the only person to go over and audition. And And I remember it like it was yesterday. I thought I was going to throw up. And I was in that bathroom, and Miss Shaney, the vocalist that I was replacing, was just like, "Girl, just go in there and just be you." And I just remember she was so pretty and regal, and I was like, I can't replace her, like, what am I doing? And doubting myself every step of the way. But in this particular group, you had to do choreography and stuff, but it was kind of like Tops and Blues, so just a smaller group. We only had like 5 vocalists at the time, and it was more of a show band type, glee type of thing. And I made it. I got the call that I made it. Actually, I got the call that day, and I didn't know that they did. You got rank. I didn't know you became an E6.
Oh, yes.
Now, mind you, I'm a senior airman at the time.
Right.
So I'm telling this captain who offered me the job and said, "You take it, make sure you get those tech stripes on." And I was like, "Well, I just made staff, so it'll be my staff stripes." And they were like, No, your tech stripes. I'm like, "No, you don't understand."
Pleasant surprise, right?
And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Stop. You get promoted to tech sergeant." Are you kidding me? And 21-year-old me, I'm screaming out in the hallway, going, "Thank you, Jesus!" Because that's money, and money I could help with my family and everything else. So it was a huge blessing and quite a surprise. I didn't go in for the money.
Right.
So I went in just for my love of music and being able to serve my country while doing something that I absolutely love.
And you can't beat that combination. I actually was at bowling in my last assignment or posting, for those people who are maybe more familiar with the Army verbiage. And of course, the band is there. The Air Force Honor Guard is at Bowling Air Force Base. And
our sister squadron, of course.
Yep, they're there too. So I got to know a lot of the band members, and I didn't know the history. And what you described is very much the history of how the band went from the old days of just, we've got a guy here in the squadron that can, play a trumpet.
Right.
Maybe he should be in the band kind of thing, to where there were tryouts and there were, degrees in music. And I didn't know that.
The pedigree is out of this world.
Very much so. I just didn't know that. They gave us a sort of a tour of the Air Force Band and a history lesson and all that.
I hosted some of those,
And I'm like, I never knew it was like that. Matter of fact, me and one of the members of the band, a chief that was there, we had a little running thing going because we were talking about recalls. Once again, I hate to get into all the military stuff, but recall is when there's an emergency, they call everyone into the base, and you may have to deploy somewhere, go somewhere or something. But you always do those exercises, or it could be an exercise. And we were talking about recalls, and I made some flippant statement to her about, well, why does the band need to be recalled? And if you had seen the look on her face when she looked at me, and she stood up and she proceeded to tell me in no uncertain terms why, because, of course, the main reason was if there's a problem with the president, unfortunately he was assassinated, something like that day,
Absolutely.
The Air Force Band had to be ready. They had to be ready to perform and things of that nature. So they actually would recall the band to get ready to make those performances or other type of events that are of national importance.
Inaugurations, state funerals is a big one, and it happened while I was there. And we have to. We start shipping in other members from other bands and everything just to have those numbers as well. Getting a joint course because you have your other branches of services that are there in DC as well, the Army Band, and getting all that music out. Like, we don't practice before that happens. We happen it's right then and there. And so those recalls are absolutely important for us, and we practice them a lot. We did. I did.
Well, I found out in no uncertain terms why they needed to do a recall. So if you ever get a chance to go out and Google the Air Force Band, or maybe if you were in another branch, by all means do that. It's a lot more involved than you think, and I learned a very valuable lesson when I was at Bowling Air Force Base on the origin of the Air Force Band and what it takes to be. It's a very competitive
Absolutely.
group.
And we have the opportunity, as long as we're performing up to standards, to be there for our entire 30-year career.
To be there for a career.
I was one of the rare ones that actually had a career prior to going to the Air Force Band. Most came from the civilian sector. That's where when they go on tours, that's where they're recruiting from those colleges, from those symphony orchestras, because musicians, those jobs, either you're going to teach or you're going to play, and those slots are very I mean, it's not many around here to be able to play and do what you love to do. So these guys who were professors of Juilliard or, you know, Peabody or anywhere like that, they're able to actually come and play. And they don't take that for granted at all. And I'm sure, which is another reason that we had to do promotions to E6, because we had to make those pay salaries competitive to the civilian sector. A lot of people don't understand that, but it is what it is.
And if nothing else, I hope you realize how unique the opportunity that Regina had and being able to be in that environment.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't happen to everyone. And not only being in the Air Force Band, and I know, at least when I keep saying when I was there, but the Air Force Band was really 4 or 5 different bands. Because I know if we were, say for instance, if you were having a retirement ceremony, and you were having a reception, and you wanted to have a country western.
Oh, it was a little
band.
potpourri of music.
Yeah, I mean, they had a group that played CW music. They had a group that played jazz.
Yes,
just
a
almost
rock band.
anything. Anything you wanted, they could say, okay, what do you want?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have it there for you. And they would play a selections of tunes that you would ask for. So it wasn't just one big band that played in one big group.
And we still have that. We have the Airmen of Note, which is one of the greatest bands in the world, in my opinion, and they have one vocalist. You have the Singing Sergeants, who's just made up of just a chorus, the official chorus of the Air Force Band. You have your Strolling Strings, which is the only string group, I believe, in the DoD at that time, and they're the ones that are in the White House and going to their dinners and strolling around and such a beautiful experience. But to walk in, and then I was in the rock band, so I deployed a lot. I did, because they transitioned from the show band, you know, once the Air Force kind of downsized and we weren't doing so many dinners and stuff at the generals, because they would buy us gowns and we would go in there and, you know, as they were having dinner with Pakistani officials, we would do dessert, you know, entertainment for them, and then we would come on back. But then, as the Air Force kind of transitioned and ramped up into you know, our wars and stuff over there, and we became more deployment minded. These AEF rotations, the Air Expeditionary Forces rotations, and we were on one, and we often deployed to those downrange areas and forward operating bases, entertaining the troops. So that mission flipped really quickly. We went from wearing gowns to wearing, you know, Kevlar. And that's what we're called to do. So, and I was happy to do it. And that changed our repertoire, our music. So I had to start listening to very current pop music, so we could give them something that they like too. So we can flip the script. We can go sing some classical, some jazz, but we can get hip. After a while, I just got too old to even be convincing at all. So it was like time to go and do something else. So,
but to provide that morale support to those troops that are downrange, I mean, I know they appreciate that. You know, I was not at a deployed base when the Tops in Blue or the band showed up, but it was always a wonderful experience. It really uplifted your spirit, especially when you were deployed overseas. I mean, you don't realize how much you miss our American way until you've experienced other countries. Not all bad by any means, but it's just different. And you appreciate that.
I did not. When I was security forces, for me, I had a different mindset. So I was like, am I being selfish by even having this job? But I started to get the feedback and the emails of how appreciative these guys were. I was able to write some songs. Holding On was about a deployed person and his wife and kid, and it was a duet between myself and one of my counterparts, and they just told us how much that saved them, you know, and they're able to listen to this music from home, and so it began to register with me on the importance of our job and what we do. And so I felt very selfish because I was doing something that I love to do. I loved my job. So you kind of go, should I be taking up arms and fighting this? But not everybody fights wars, you know.
Well, that's true.
You know, we're in the support area where we support our troops and what they do, and not just Air Force. It's whoever's down there at the time.
Right. Anybody, and contractors and all the people that are there.
Exactly.
The whole group. You said you wrote songs. Did you write songs? Did you also write music?
Well, we would have these little writing sessions, or
Okay.
they would say, okay, it's our turn to do a CD. So what kind of music are we going to put on them? And so of course, there are copyright issues. You want to put out original music. So
Right.
there's a few that I put out on our Air Force Band CDs and stuff that went out. And we would give free CDs out on deployments or when we were on tour or anything like that. So I enjoyed writing, and I mean, I wasn't that good at it, I don't think.
No.
But there's a couple that I'll listen to every now and again. I'm like, oh, that's all right. That's actually pretty good. But I enjoy it.
So can someone go out and either stream or purchase an Air Force Band
Not
song?
purchase, because you guys pay tax dollars. So those are all free. You can download, you can
Your
go
music.
to the Air Force Band, the Air Force Band's music.
Oh, so would anybody know if you happen to be like the lead vocalist anyway? Would they be able to know that?
Well, if you're looking it up, if you go to the Air Force Band page, they have a library of recordings.
Okay.
And you can just download them.
Okay.
But it will say written by Regina Coonrod at that
Oh,
time.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. good.
I'm not recommending that you do that, though.
Oh, I'm sure they're fine. In addition, and to sort of get back onto the military side
Yeah.
of things, very unique, very special to be part of Tops in Blue, then to be selected for the Air Force Band, and then to make Chief Master Sergeant, E9 for all of those military folks out there. I was out doing a little bit of research because, as I say, I've been away from my Air Force roots for a little bit, and just to give the folks a perspective of how special making Chief Master Sergeant is, I guess they just recently upped the percentage of Air Force enlisted personnel who can be in the rank of Chief Master Sergeant. They upped that percentage to 1.25%. When I was on active duty, it was actually 1%.
1%,
Only
yeah.
1% of the entire enlisted force in the Air Force can be in the rank of Chief Master Sergeant. So you
One
can see.
sounds better than 1.25.
Well,
1.25.
but just to give everyone an idea of how special it is to have a career where you're in such a unique group as the Air Force Band and Tops in Blue, and also be a Chief Master Sergeant. And for people who don't know the Air Force way of promotions, you compete with
Absolutely.
other folks who are eligible for promotion. There's tests you have to
The same
take.
test,
Yeah,
yes,
you
absolutely.
just don't walk in and do a solo and they give you a
Right.
chief stripe. You have to test and things of that nature. to
And your
get promotion.
performance amongst your peers as well, because we're not only just singers or musicians. We make our entire support. We run the commander support staff. We run our public affairs. We run all of our different areas, supply. We all have our collateral duties that we contribute to. After rehearsal, we go to work. So we have to do those things. And if you want to even be competitive with promotion, you definitely have to do well in those areas as well as your area of performance as well.
Very, very much a well-rounded promotion system in the Air Force.
really is.
It's very competitive, and when you get to those upper ranks, Senior Master Sergeant, Chief Master Sergeant, E8 and E9s, it becomes very, very competitive. And almost like anything else, if you're in sports, you like winning at the local level, you like winning at the regional level, but if you can take a state championship, if you can take a Super Bowl, those got a Major League Baseball World Series championship, that's the top of the charts, and that's sort of how E9 is in the military. Once you get up to that point, you've reached the pinnacle. So once again, congratulations on that.
Thank you. It was a
Congratulations
huge
on that.
blessing. Huge blessing. What did you retire as, by the way?
I was a chief.
Exactly.
Chief also.
So I just want to say congratulations to you as well.
Well, like I say,
Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Master Sergeant retired.
This is about you, but yeah, I was a chief also. Let's transition.
Okay.
You did your Air Force career, and now you're looking at coming back into civilian life. And I'll let everyone know, I met Regina when she was the lead in the play Old Freedom. The Underground Railroad story. So, and that's
I
where
was a supporting role.
Oh, you were the lead.
Necessarily
You
the
know
lead.
that. So, did you have a plan coming out of the Air Force of what you wanted to do? Obviously, moving back toward home was
just
one of
building a home and I mean, just getting settled in. And so this came out of nowhere. The auditions showed up, and I didn't even know there was a Warren Arts Theater here. So there's lots of things that have came about since my career started in the Air Force. So a young lady, Miss Annette King, sent me an email. I started getting these emails from several people, and they were like, there's an audition for this. They're doing Oh Freedom. And even when I went to sign up for the audition, my plan was not to be any lead. I didn't want to memorize any lines,
Right.
unfortunately. But I said, whatever you want me to do, you know, kind of thing. And that's what they casted me as. And I was excited about it, but I was also terrified because I hadn't put on my acting hat in a long time. I mean, sure, we act on stage singing, but not memorizing lines and things of that nature. So it was a pretty terrifying experience, but. And it was different.
You handled it very well. You were terrified.
It was different because we did sing a little bit,
Right.
but it was there was no music. I mean, it was uncharted territory for me. I've done acting. Actually, I was a musical theater major when I was in college.
Okay.
So I had that background, but that was years ago. So, and my cousin was there, and my second cousins, their kids, and it was just it was like a big family event to me. And I'm so glad and honored because there was things in those scripts that we learned. I mean, there was facts and knowledge of our Black history and of the Underground Railroad that I didn't even know. And some of those stories and the people, and it made me more hungry to research that history and get to know more about it. And so I'm very grateful to have been casted for that role. Thank you to Miss Sherry for doing that.
Yeah,
if you're listening, Miss Sherry, thank you.
I spoke with Sherry yesterday, as a matter of fact, on a little project that we're doing actually for Cable Channel 6 for this program. It's going to be a little bit more of a documentary, and we're looking for some folks to do voiceover, so I gave her a call. And I know since the word has gotten out, you've been in demand for various kinds of activities. What other things other than the play have you been doing lately?
Oh, don't ask me that. I have done a few anthems locally and things, and then I've also, I hate to say it, but I've done some funerals. I've had some people pass away, but I've had the honor of doing some of my old band director. I was able to sing at his mother's funeral, and those are things that I don't take for granted ever at all, because it's an honor to honor someone in death. I've sang at some weddings, and I'm also a member of my praise team at church, and we often sing there as well. But I'm just looking, not looking to get involved in too much in the long-term sense, but I'm just trying to be soccer mom, baseball mom with my 5-year-old, and not get involved in. My husband's like, all right, what else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do today? So it's hard for me not to, because I stay moving all the time. It's hard not to say yes to everything.
Yeah. Well, like I say, you started your career. Now you started your second sort of career.
Yeah.
And it's good to be able to sort of pick and choose the things you want to do.
Yeah.
I do have one question that I've often heard people say. The Star Spangled Banner is the hardest song to sing. And I'm sure it's not in general terms, but I guess normally you're in front of an audience and people are trained right there on you, and people know it. So
everybody knows it.
So if you do a little bit of a miscue, they'll hear that and they'll know that.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that it's hard to sing?
Yeah, and for many reasons. Now it does jump octaves, so you got to be
right,
and so you got to jump octaves. It's a rangy type of song, so you got to do that. And a lot of people will change keys in the middle and all that, so you can hear that,
right.
But then also just the fact that A, everybody knows it. B, it's not your song. It's a song that belongs to the people,
right.
to the United States of America. It's an anthem. So one of the things that made me more nervous than anything was singing, especially when I was in uniform. When I was representing the Air Force Band, I'm like, I don't even represent myself. You're representing the Air Force Band. You're representing the United States Air Force when you're doing this. And I didn't take that responsibility lightly at all.
Right.
And so that song is very near and dear to me and important. And I try my best to sing it and not flourish it too much and put my own style, because it's not mine to do all that. I try to make it as straight, but just a little bit, just a little bit in there, and not I'm not going to say people disrespect the anthem, but it's just not my way. I just try to make it pay honor to the flag, and that's it.
And I was going to ask you about that. It seems like some artists have done that, have wanted to put their own little stamp on it.
Yeah.
And I think there's some, I look at Marvin Gaye when he sung the anthem at the NBA All-Star game, or Whitney Houston, and a few that I think did well
Houston, yeah.
with their style.
Yeah.
And then there's been others that I'm like, yeah, that I just don't think that's good at all.
Yeah.
So you're sort of, nothing wrong with putting a little bit of your own flavor in there.
I'm pretty traditional
yeah.
for the most part, but I might do. I don't change the note structure. You know, there's people that will do different things with the notes. I don't change that at all. But just my voice, if it's a soulful voice, I'm going to probably do a little run or something like that. But I try my best to keep it as true to what it is as possible. Yeah, I'm more of a traditionalist. When I see an artist go out there and they just sing the song the way they sing it, you know, and Whitney Houston, that's very debatable too, because she changed the signature, the rhythm of it. So she put it in 4/4 timing, and people were like, oh my gosh. But then her voice is so angelic. You're like, how can you say this is bad? You know, so, and that's one of my favorite ones. And if you go up to one of the Smithsonian museums, that's what's playing with the flag that's on display that Betsy Ross made. So that's the song. And Jimi Hendrix, you know. There's some like that, like Jimi Hendrix. How can you not like that?
Yeah, yeah.
For the time and the era of what it was, I mean, it was tastefully done, in my opinion. But everybody's got an opinion.
For the most part, when you're asked to sing at events, even maybe if it is a funeral, are there songs that you already know, or have you had to learn songs to sing?
Oh, most of the time I've had to learn songs.
Okay.
I'll say, what would you like me to sing? Is there a song that they loved or something? Or there's songs that you think you know, that you might have just kind of sang in church, and then you find out that you don't know it at all. And so I've made a fool of myself a couple of times where I'm like, I thought I knew that song. It's like the song "It Is Well." You think you would know that "It Is Well," but then you go to the verse and you're like, I don't know that song at all. So I've had to learn quite a few songs. Quite a few songs that and the older I get, the harder it is. I used to be able to memorize lyrics just like that because that's what we did.
Right.
But now I'm a little out of practice, and I'm like, I need a lyric sheet or something. Just hide that back there so I can see it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, just being asked to perform like that, especially in some of those very emotional type of events, I know it's got to be very, very heartfelt and thankful to be able to do that. But like you say, you're sort of on display again, you know, when you're in those environments and people are there focused on you, you know. So it takes a special person to be able to do that. Are you writing?
Yeah.
Are you writing any music? Any
songs? I actually was working on a song last night.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a song that I've literally had for probably about 10 years now, almost 10 years. And it was it's called Back in the Day. That's my working title.
Right.
But I haven't had a bridge in a long time. And ironically enough, I was sleeping in bed and I woke up and I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. And I started writing. So you gotta catch it while you can, because I would forget it as soon as I woke up the next morning.
And I've heard that a lot from musicians who say, I was in a cab going down the streets in New York City. I pulled out a napkin and wrote down those kind of things. It's just amazing that kind of inspiration comes to you in the strangest times, strangest places.
Kind of way. Exactly. So, and mine was more of the beat that I wanted. I wanted to change the flow of the song, and I just didn't know how I was going to do that, and I just put it away. And some of the songs that I write, I just put them away, and just try to get inspired by it. You know, looking to do an album of hymns one day. Yeah, that's what I want to do because we're so far away from hymnals and things of that nature now, and I want to bring all that back and the classic stuff back. So, looking forward to doing that.
Any thoughts about going on some of the nationwide competitions?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
Oh, come on.
No. My 5-year-old keeps us pretty busy. And
Okay.
the reason I got out of the Air Force is because I didn't want to deploy I waited to have children until I was 38,
Okay.
toward the end of my career for a reason. And I just didn't want that heartbreak of seeing being deployed and all that. So my promise to my husband, who is also a retired Air Force,
Right.
was that I'm going to slow down so I can enjoy the life of my son. And he's like, how's that working out for you? So I don't think I'll be doing a national tour or anything like that anytime soon, but maybe when he gets older.
It's funny how those
Cicely
things.
Tyson was acting until she was in her 90s.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So maybe some time down the road.
And you just never know. Of course, we can't predict the future, so you never know. I sort of thought about that when you said your plan of getting out and being with your son and your husband and things. And that was when I retired from the Air Force. My wife was working federal service, civil service, and I said, you follow me all over the world. You've started jobs and ended jobs and things of that nature. We're going to work on your career now.
There you go.
And we were in the D.C. area at the time, and she had a pretty nice job there. And then I got the opportunity to move back to Murfreesboro with my job as a civil service employee. And we thought with the VA hospital here and the other things, she could get right back in the system, but unfortunately, she never did. Never
Really?
did. And I talked to her about that today, and she said, Mickey, it seems like it bothers you more than it does me. I said, yeah, because I promised you, we're going to work on your career because you've supported my career all these years.
Exactly.
And it still, unfortunately, it didn't work. I mean, it was okay for me. I mean, it was a very, very good job and a nice pay grade, but didn't get a chance to work on her career, so you never know.
You never know. It's like my son, I felt so bad doing this play down here because I had to travel from Sparta.
Right.
So I was traveling from Sparta, so that takes time, and then traveling back, and so my son was playing t-ball. And just to even miss a game, it was heartbreaking to me. Oh, I want to see him play t-ball. So that, I told him, I said, no more summers. Like, can you start having some wintertime shows or something where he's not playing any sports? Because I don't want to miss those things. I just feel like we as parents miss so much, and they grow up so fast, and he's my only, so I just want to make sure that I don't miss a thing. I don't want to hear it from Dad how well he did.
Yeah, and being in the military, as you know, you just mentioned that we don't always control when we have to leave a base or deploy or whatever the reasons may be. And I had that same kind of scenario when we went to bowling to DC. My daughters were sophomores in high school, and I was like, not going to pull them out of high school. That's a very critical part of their life. I'll just go there by myself, do which was at that time was a 2-year control tour. Yeah. And my wife said, no, we've always gone everywhere as family. We're going to go to Washington, D.C. as a family. And they started, their sophomore year at high school at a brand new school.
Wow.
At that age, they made friends quickly.
I was going to say, when you travel around, some of the kids are very resilient when it comes to that.
They are.
I wanted to start him in a small town, which is where I grew up.
Right.
Since he was just starting, I was like, this is a perfect time for me to get out, and he can start with the people that he'll probably graduate with, 17 years down the road. So.
That's good.
Or 12 years down the road, whatever that is. I'm not good at math.
No problem. And before we end the show, I want you to talk about your performances for our presidents.
Okay, I guess the one that I'm most thrilled about, it was my anthem performance at the White House with President Obama. And it was at a naturalization ceremony for military members. And I was sick to my stomach, but because he was standing right there. Typically, they're not standing anywhere close to you, but he was like right there. And I have a picture. I don't know if they'll show it or not, but
we'll get that
of
on.
me standing. It was like one side of it is me, and the other side is him. But what's really cool is that next week I actually went to California to see my now husband Jake, and I got a request for a by name request. I guess he liked it, so he wanted me to come back and do another anthem. And then I was like, unless you guys fly me back, I couldn't afford to fly back from California to do it that next day. But that was an honor to me. I just saw that as a huge honor. But we've gotten to sing my last performance with the Singing Sergeants was at an event, and I'm not sure exactly what event it was, but President Trump and Melania was there, and they were having a dinner. So we were there, evening entertainment. And she's beautiful, by the way. I just kept looking at her. I'm like, she is gorgeous. But I also got to sing at, I believe it was President Reagan's funeral. Just like I said, state funerals, they do entire joint chorus. So usually at the National Cathedral, they get all hands on deck. And there was all the presidents, President Clinton, Bush, and all that. And what a beautiful, beautiful, the sound that comes out of that cathedral is just so powerful. And when you get all these chorus members, it's probably hands down one of my most favorite events. That, not that it was a funeral, of course, but just that sound that's generated through that is just so powerful, and it moved me. It's one of my most memorable, let me say that. But then the rock band got to do a 4th of July picnic for President Bush, the young Bush, and I've got videotape, and Secret Service was following me the entire time because I had this video camera. They're like, you shouldn't be doing that. But it was my first year, and it was my first president, so I was like, this is cool. What's going on? Yeah, pitiful, because I was like, look, when I look back at the video, that guy's like, hey, like, what's this chick doing? But because we were the youngest service, because it was a joint service thing, we had to set up and tear down. So we were in our gear. The other branches just rolled in and did their performances. And they go tuck us away in the White House basement somewhere, It's not glamorous at all, And then, but it opened up and poured right as we were about to perform.
Oh, wow. It
came like a monsoon, and it was a Congress, all the congressmen and everything were outside. It's like a picnic. So, and these people, I was so depressed. I was like, we did all this, and now we just got to go and tear it down. Wow. But he came up and talked to us. Oh, okay. And he was just like, I'm so sorry you guys didn't get to do that and all that. And he gave us a tour and everything. So that was like you bank that, and it was one of my first experiences. But I had also gotten to see, as security forces member, I gotten to see President Clinton. Took some pictures with him. Okay. I'll make sure you get those as well. Took some pictures, with the Bushes and things of that nature. So it was an honor. You don't get as terrified about those performances because they'll never see you again. So it's when I do these local performances that I'm like, oh. But when you're singing solo, it's a different ball game, like that anthem with President Obama. But something that I can always have a memory of, and I'll hopefully never forget it.
Oh, I'm sure you won't. As I'm thinking back on my career, it pales in significance to your career, Regina.
I'm sure you've got some pretty sweet memories.
You've had a very, very unique career and the opportunities that you've had. I'm just so proud that you were able to do those things.
Thank you. My parents are proud.
I'm sure everyone that knows you.
I'm happy that I made them proud.
Yeah. Well, I've got another name I can drop from now on. Well, I know Regina.
Oh, don't do that. They made that like, Regina. Especially now that I'm a Pullin, because they'll be like, we definitely don't know who that is.
I'll break it down for them. That's not a problem. Well, appreciate it again for coming into the studio, and once again, all the best for you and your family. All right,
awesome.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching us today. I'm Mickey Gwyn, and please join us for the next episode of The Soul of Warren County. Until then, please enjoy the rest of your day.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at last on the ground, you in midair. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps staring around, one who can't move. And where are the clouds? Quicksand in the clouds. Just when I stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours. Making my entrance again with my usual flair, sure of my lines, no one is there. Don't you love farce? My fault, I fear. I thought that you'd want what I want. Sorry, my dear. But where are the clouds? There ought to be clouds. Don't bother their ear. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. And where are the clouds? Quicksand in the clouds. Well, maybe next year. Tell you about a boy I know. He's my baby and he lives next door. And every morning when the sun comes up, he fills me coffee in my favorite cup. That's how I know, yes I know. Hallelujah, I just love him so. When I'm in trouble and I have no friends, I know he'll be with me until the end. Everybody asks me how I know. I smile and tell him cause he told me so. That's how I know, yes I know. Hallelujah, I just love him so. Oh, when I call him on the telephone, I tell him that I'm all alone. And by the time I count from 1 to 4, I hear him on my door in the evening when the sun goes down and there ain't nobody else around. He kisses me and then he holds me tight and tells me, Gina, everything is alright. That's how I know, yes I know. Hallelujah, I just love him so. Woo! Sergeant Jake McRae. When I call him on the telephone and tell him that I'm all alone, by the time I count from 1 to 4, I hear him on my door in the evening when the sun goes down and there ain't nobody else around. He kisses me and then he holds me tight and tells me, Gina, everything is alright. That's how I know, yes I know. Hallelujah, I just love him so. Hallelujah, I just love him so. Hallelujah, I just love him so. Hallelujah, I just love him so.